All right, guys. So this video talking about the GoPro camera and using that to live stream, say from inside your race car up to one of the popular social media platforms like YouTube or Facebook or Twitch or some other platform that you'd like to use. So I'm going to talk about that. I've already done a video on the Yi action camera. And what you're going to discover as I go through this is that using the Yi is far, far less involved, far easier in order to get that up and running and working on, say, YouTube, for instance, which I think you'll see is the ideal platform for what we do. And I'll go in and explain all of that as we get going here. I'm going to hit on the high points so that you don't have to watch the entire video to get all of the hoops that you're going to have to jump through to get this camera to stream, so that if once you hear those things, you can tick those off. It may be something where you already have those things in place, or maybe you don't and you don't want to deal with it. So I'm going to go ahead and jump right into what does it take to get this camera to live stream up into the cloud. Okay, so let's talk about, there are three really popular platforms, as we call it in IT, that you can live stream to. There's Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Now, each platform has their advantages and disadvantages. First off, for Twitch, we never recommend anybody stream to that channel, and it's purely just because of the commercials that they force upon you. We can't really use that in the broadcast because of that being so strange. But you can certainly use it if you choose to, if you don't intend to share it. This video is geared towards you putting a stream into the cloud like most people, and then wanting to share that with us so I can put it into the broadcast and everybody can enjoy that together. If you don't intend to do that, and you know how to use Twitch and you want to use it with Twitch, you go right ahead. But the scope of this video, I'm going to focus on really Facebook and YouTube. And the differences between the two is with Facebook, you have a 4-hour limit on how long that stream will continue before they will kick you out. And we don't have any 4-hour races in Champ Cars. So it really becomes inconvenient to run on a Facebook feed. You would have to cycle the camera when it comes in, reconnect with your phone, and go through the configuration process real quick to send it back to Facebook during those pit stops, so that you would have a feed, at least, a relatively consistent feed throughout the day. And in Facebook, for that reason, it really isn't ideal for the kind of racing that we do. So we typically recommend people go to YouTube for their streams. And this is where we get into a bit of a conundrum. I'm sure that most of you have heard that somewhat recently YouTube enacted a policy where they said that you cannot live stream from a mobile device to a channel that has less than 1,000 subscribers. And once that was put in place, it knocked out a lot of people. Unfortunately, as a lot of us were just getting into the streaming game, from streaming from inside our race cars, we were trying to set up and go through YouTube, and suddenly nobody could do it anymore. Now, if you've seen the Yi action camera tutorial, I show you how to get around that 1,000 sub limitation. And that's because of the way that the Yi action camera software, the configuration software is set up so that there's a pretty easy workaround for that. Unfortunately, with the GoPro camera, that is not the case. There is no way to do it going directly from the camera up through a hotspot to YouTube. You do go through a configuration process with your phone, with the app, which I will show a little bit later in this video what those steps are. But when you could try to connect it to the YouTube channel, it's not going to broadcast up there. So let me talk briefly, though, about the things that you need in place on your YouTube channel in order for that broadcast to happen. So you do have to have at least 1,000 subscribers, but it goes further than that. You also have to have at least 4,000 watched hours of video on your channel. Now, that does not mean 4,000 hours of video on your channel, just 4,000 watched hours. So a lot of guys have put videos up there of their races. They may have 30 hours or 20 hours of racing up there, but you have to have that shared in such a way to where other people have seen it, and collectively there's over 4,000 hours watched from everybody on the globe on your channel. Next, you also have to apply for an AdSense account. It's called Google AdSense, and what the AdSense account does is a precursor for monetization. So once the AdSense account is established and approved by YouTube, then that is when you can begin to monetize your channel and start gaining revenue from it. You may have no interest in doing that, but unfortunately, that is another step going towards what's called YouTube partnership. You have to be an approved YouTube partner in order to live stream to your channel using a GoPro camera. So it's not just 1,000 subs. You also have to have those 4,000 watched hours. You have to go through the setup and approval of a Google AdSense account on your channel. Plus, once all that's done, there's an indiscriminate period of time that they're going to evaluate your channel. It can take weeks. It can take even months before they approve you as being a Google partner. And at that point, yes, you can live stream from a mobile device to your channel with the GoPro app. All of that complicated hoop jumping can be bypassed just by using a camera that costs a sixth the price, okay, and performs just as well. That's the Yi Action camera. So that's the setup for this, and I'm going to show you the steps necessary, though, to go through with the app and configure the camera so it'll broadcast up to YouTube. But I first wanted to hit all those points. So if you're like, okay, I'm not going to do all this, this is the point in the video where you can leave, because the rest is for all the other guys who have that in place and they just want to go forward with getting this thing to work. All right. So the first step, when you first got your camera, let's say maybe you haven't even unboxed it yet, you're going to have to go out, take your phone to your App Store or your Google Play Store and download the GoPro app. And then it will connect via Bluetooth rather than Wi-Fi to your camera. And you'll go through a short setup process where you'll identify the name of the camera. You'll have a name for it that you'll create. And there will be likely a firmware update. Now, you're going to want to make sure that you go through that process, completing the firmware updates so that the camera is completely current with the updates that come from GoPro. And then once that's complete, you're going to go through a configuration process to get your camera to identify and connect to your hotspot, and then to where you want that camera to broadcast to, which platform, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, live stream, wherever you're going to go with it. Okay. So there are various cameras, GoPro cameras, that can do this. One of them is the Black 7, and that's the one that I have here. This is Doc's camera. There are some other models that also offer what is called encoding. It is the encoding that you need. This is what takes the recorded video, the video that it's capturing, and translates it into a streamable format so that it can go up to the cloud and then be viewed in real time or close to real time. Okay, so it's this encoding that you need. Now, one solution to get around this whole YouTube debacle is to connect the camera via an HDMI cable to a live shell or a Cerevo. That was one of the solutions we were going through a couple of years ago in order to get these GoPros to work. And once that's done, YouTube doesn't see it as a mobile device anymore. It's a hardware encoder coming off of that device, and it should be able to get through. It's possible that you could still broadcast from this through a hardware encoder, as it's called, which would be like a Cerevo or a live shell, and get that up into YouTube nonetheless. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. You're going to need to have your Google account logged in, and you'll need another web page running for Facebook Live so you can message yourself the stream key and the URL that you're going to need to set it up on your phone, okay? So anyway, just go over to YouTube. You can click on the little camera button up here in the corner. That'll take you to go live. And then from here, you see the new YouTube studio. We've got stream, webcam, manage, and the link over to the classic side. So first thing you're going to need to do is set yourself up an event. You can stream directly to your YouTube channel, but if you set up an event, it's going to be much more reliable for you. So this is how you're going to want to do it. So just type in like test one for your first one. You can set it up as unlisted rather than public. The only difference here is that the public stuff would be everybody that is subscribed to your channel would get a notification that you just went live. Unlisted is something you can share, and it's visible to you, but it doesn't notify everybody that you just went live. So for testing, it's perfect. Style, you can pick sports, doesn't really matter. Description, obviously, it's a test. You can go in here and hit schedule for later, and during a race, for a race weekend, you would actually pick, the time that you're actually going to run it. And by doing it this way, like say you're going to go, your race starts at like 9 o'clock, it's going to provide a countdown for people. Whether you put this in there or not, there's going to be something that ends up in here. So you might as well just go ahead and put it in there for what it's actually going to be. And when you set up, you're going to set up a different event for each day of racing. So you're going to have like, VIR day 1, 2020, and VIR day 2, 2020. You'll have separate events that you'll set up for each race on that weekend. All right, and then you can go ahead and put a thumbnail in here if you want to, get a picture of your race car, set that in there. And then no, it's not made for kids, so that if anybody drops an F-bomb, you don't get banned. And then you're going to create the stream. That'll take you back to this page, and you're going to see some switches in here. You're going to want to enable auto start, and that's so that whenever you do go live, it'll actually just start streaming. It doesn't matter if it's you're going to be going live at some point before or after the driver's meeting. So that'll prevent any need for you to monitor and send it live from within your account here in Studio. Auto stop is kind of the same thing, although I usually leave this off. Recommend it being off for you guys as well, because any drops in the stream, it would just end the stream, and it might have trouble actually getting back into that event. So it's better just to leave this off. And then at the end of the event, as soon as the race is over, you want to go in here and hit the end stream button that'll appear up here in red. That way it can finish publishing to your YouTube account. And you need to do this before 11 hours and 55 minutes has taken place over the course of that day. Otherwise, it'll either crop the video at the front or at the back, which means you'd either miss the starting or the finish, or it won't process it completely, never actually publish to YouTube. So that is one little thing you got to kind of babysit YouTube for, to do it right and get it right every time. If you don't do any of this stuff, you just kind of hedge your bets and hope that it all works out. All right, closed captions you can leave off. You will get the auto captions on that, so don't worry about that. Auto-generate key. This is something that gets some people into trouble as well, so make sure you go in here and you're going to create a new stream key for each event. By doing it this way, it'll be more reliable for you. So we'll just call this test 1, and you just create one for each of your races, and each of your events would get their own stream key. For variable bit rate, you're going to set it to 480. You can run it up in 720 if you want to try it, but 480 is going to be reliable at like 90% of the races that you do. So you're going to get much better frame rates out of 480. You can leave 60 frames per second off. That'll preserve bandwidth for you. It'll be a lot cheaper. And again, it'll give you that reliability to get you a nice smooth video. So you're going to do a create. Then you're going to have to change this over to the stream key you just created. There we go. 480p. So now we have a stream key and we have our URL. We're going to copy these over and just instant message them to ourselves, so that way we can get that into the phone, into the app. Before we leave this though, there's this thing at latency here at the bottom, and I recommend you run normal latency for broadcasting from within your race car. That'll give you about a 20-second buffer, and that'll help clean up again that frame rate for you by having that buffer in there. If you run low latency, you might see it buffering a little bit more when you're racing, and your delay would be about 8 seconds. So we're going to do a copy here on the stream URL. Do that first. Then you're going to go over to your Facebook page, and you're going to send an instant message to yourself. You're going to paste this in there, hit the / key, which is right next to the question mark. Okay, that'll put a little / in there. Go back to the studio. You're going to do a copy on this stream key. So now that's on the clipboard. I'm going to go back in here, click into the field, right click then, and then go to paste. And now I've got my URL, a / plus the stream key, and I'm going to send that to myself basically. So now I'll be able to get that from my cell phone. Okay, so I'm going to go to my phone app now and go ahead with the configuration process for the GoPro camera. So here we go. Let's open up our app. We'll skip through that. Okay, we're going to add a camera. It's searching for the camera. We'll pick the appropriate camera. In this case, it's the Hero 7 Black. Open, connect the device. GoPro app sees your camera ID and password. Continue. So open the utility drawer. I'm going to hit preferences by swiping down on the camera. Hit connections. Wireless connections is turned on. And I'll hit connect device. And tap GoPro app. It says, hey, install the GoPro app. Okay. Now it says, we found your GoPro. So I'm going to hit connect camera. You can see it's going through that connection process. And I'm going to type in a name for it. It says Poly's Hero 7 Black, which it's not my camera. It belongs to Doc. So I'm going to back over to the Poly part and just put Doc. Docs. There we go. I'll hit done and save the new name at the bottom. Okay, new name is saved, and I'm going to hit let's go. Wants to join the Wi-Fi network. Yes, we want to join that. All right, so now I'm going to swipe over to where it says Setup Live. I'm going to tap the YouTube option down below and go to RTMP and then say Setup Live. And the reason I'm doing this instead of using the YouTube app that's built in, which you totally can, I'm using the RTMP version so that way I can select the exact events that I just created in my YouTube studio. So I'm going to set up my stream. I'm going to allow it to connect to my Wi-Fi. And this is the spot where you would pick your hotspot. So you would turn that on. You would see the signal there represented by the name, like that MiFi X3209. You would select it. It would ask you for the password. You type in your password, and that would allow the connectivity to happen. Then it's going to ask you to enter your RTMP URL. And so here's where I'm going to back out of this just enough to go into my chat here. I'm going to select and copy by tapping more. Now I've copied that whole RTMP address along with the stream key. I'm going to go back here to this URL and tap and release, and it's going to give me a paste option. There, I've pasted it in. There's the YouTube URL with a / and the stream key for that event. I'm going to change the resolution to the 480p, and I'm not going to worry about saving a copy to my SD card. So that's all set up. I tap Setup at the bottom, and it's asking me if I want to go live. So I'm going to tap Go Live. And now on my camera, it says that I'm live here at the top. Hard to see, but that's what it says. So let's switch screens here so you can see what's going on. And there we have a live stream. And it says at the bottom, it says, please check your video resolution because it's at 840 by 480, which we know. We did that intentionally. That's the way we want it to be to help save on that bandwidth. Okay? So there we have it. We are live streaming to YouTube by setting up the stream with our phone, which is really the only option you have. There's really no other way to get the encoder part of the GoPro camera to work without using the GoPro app, unfortunately. Now, this does give you the option to stop the stream from right here if you want to. You can also just close out of the app because it's right now connected only by the Bluetooth connection, and you're going to leave this connected and up and running through the hotspot in your car. And again, you're going to set up multiple events then, one for the day 1 race, one for the day 2 race. You can do all the testing you want to. I don't recommend you do any testing on the streams you're actually going to be using during the race, though. Sometimes when you test on them, you can have a problem reconnecting to them again. So in order to stop the stream, I'm just going to tap on the button here on the top, and it'll say that the broadcast is ended. Now remember, one of the things I selected in the setup for the stream was not to enable auto stop. So let's see what happens when we hit that. I'm going to hit the button here to stop it. Okay, it says that's a wrap. All right, so let's flip back and see what's going on here on the other screen. So you can see here it's pinwheeling. It's not streaming any longer, but up at the top it says end stream. So it's actually still streaming this that you see here off into YouTube land. And it's not going to finalize and publish until you hit this end stream. There, now that I've done that, I have a little bit of results here for how long it lasted. All right. And I can dismiss that. And the stream is now done. And that's going to publish up onto my YouTube channel now as a result. So I hope this has been helpful. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave that in the comments below here in the forum. And I will continue to update this video as necessary in the near future. So hope that helps out. And take care, everybody. See you at the track.